Good morning and welcome in. This is SimWorld today on a Freaky Friday edition, May 24th, a big day in sports, and I'm bringing in Rick Blaze back with the lights on, rejoining us on a Friday. Rick, missed you yesterday. Welcome on to the show once again.
It's been a long week, but I'm glad to be here, March. Let's get to it.
Let's get to it then. Eastern Conference Finals Game 2 last night. Pacers and Celtics coming off the dramatic Game 1 conclusion in which the Indiana Pacers became the first team to blow a three-point lead with the ball with 10 seconds left and tried to air some caution yesterday because it felt like this was a team that could still hang around. And for much of last night, it seemed like they could until the wheels fell off. Tyrese Halliburton out with a leg injury. Jaylen Brown goes nuts, and it's a 2-0 series lead for the Boston Celtics as we flip to Indiana, Rick.
The 2-0 lead is going to look a little deceiving, especially considering that Indiana had the first game won. Um, but I mean, if you're the Indiana team, one thing you can hang your hat on is first game you have won. There's no more victories, right, for the playoffs. But first game you have won, and second game, listen, Indiana's getting all the shots that they want. They're just not making them. It's not like Boston is like shutting these guys down. Indiana's just not making their shots. Now they have a problem upcoming potentially with the injury to Tyrese Halliburton, who hadn't been playing great, but he's still your number one guy you want to have out there on the floor at all times. So we'll see how that happens. But if I'm Indy, hey, Boston came did what they had to do. Take 2 games at home. We need to come. We need to do take 2 games at our home place as well. I don't think Indy's out of it because they are a scoring team, and Boston obviously can put up points as well. So if you can take away anything from if you're Indiana Pacers fan or player, is that we know we can play with these guys. We let one get away, and they're not stopping us. We're just not making our shots.
Yeah, the only thing at this point for Indy is the fact that we'll find out more about what the situation for Tyrese Halliburton is. And it's one of the strangest things that you'll find in the SWBA playoffs is that at the beginning of the playoffs, in the first round, when maybe you don't need as much rest because the opponent typically isn't as good, especially for top seeds. They're playing like once and then they might wait 2, 3, 4 days to play another game. And then we get to like the most important games, the conference finals and the SWBA finals, and the league is like, no more rest. We're playing every other day.
Yeah.
And it's always been very odd to me where it's like, wouldn't you want to build it? Like, if you got some days early on in the postseason where you could have a couple days of rest, why wouldn't you try to save those up for your best games, your best series, your most important series to have your most important players? But regardless, Halliburton, who's dealt with a hamstring injury all season long, I don't. There's kind of some soreness, hamstring, kind of ambiguity on what the injury really was. But if he's not able to go, or because we've seen him at a hobbled state, if he's not 100%, the series is potentially over. But to your point, the Pacers have actually looked really good, and I don't know if that's a sign of maybe the Celtics aren't as good, or it's the fact that this Pacers team played for the majority of the season without Pascal Siakam, and with him in the lineup, this was a team that probably was a top 4 seed, and we look at this postseason so much differently, similar to the Dallas Mavericks, where they had the number 1 defense in the second half of the year, but because they had that early season hole, they were never going to be a top 2 seed, top 3 seed,
Yeah.
though they've been playing like it for the last number of weeks and months.
Yeah. And again, if you're the Pacers, I mean, it's not time to hang your hat against a Tyrese Halliburton situation. If he can't go, then that does change the dynamic totally, right? And let's be honest, the Boston Celtics have been known to just go into a lull in the playoffs, and
Yeah.
so at any point in time, the Boston Celtics can become the Boston Toronto Raptors. So that it happens for them from time to time. But everyone expects the Celtics to win, and it looks like they're in the driver's seat to do so. But this Pacers team is a formidable foe, and this series looks a lot different if they're going back to Indiana 1-1 as opposed to 0-2.
Yes, of course, no series. The series doesn't really start with a road team wins, and that'll come up an opportunity for the Celtics to do that in 2 days, up 2-0 as we flip it. Conference news in the Eastern Conference still as the Cleveland Cavaliers fire JB Bickerstaff after 5 seasons with the team, had a above 50% winning percentage, took them to back-to-back playoffs, conference semifinals for the first time since LeBron James wore a Cavaliers uniform. And this was pretty much a foregone conclusion once the article that came out right after their demise by The Athletic, who just has these articles sitting waiting to blast them out as soon as team's season ends. They did it with Phoenix. That led to the firing of Frank Vogel. Same thing. That was deemed to be imminent. To me, this seems like both the right move and the wrong move, which maybe that makes it the right move in the long run. But this is a Cavaliers team and an organization that, Rick, has had nothing going for them. Absolutely nothing for the last couple of seasons. Until JB Bickerstaff has been a really good coach. Darius Garland became an all-star. They brought in Donovan Mitchell. I've always kind of been hesitant. How much does a coach really matter in a game like basketball where there's so much reliance on superstars? Your take, is this the right call, the wrong call? Is this more of a call that maybe Donovan Mitchell wasn't a big fan of JB Bickerstaff and they're trying to acquiesce to him to try to lock him up long term? What do you think?
Yeah, I don't understand. I don't understand what if I'm Coach Bickerstaff. What else did I needed to do to keep my job?
Right.
I mean, did you really think the Cavs were going to the NBA championship? Like, I don't know. So I think a lot of this be dog and pony shows, right? I think the management or somebody up in upper management for Cleveland may already have a person that they want, and you just say, I'm just gonna fire the guy that's currently here because I have somebody that I want, right? So that's unfortunate because if you look at his resume since he's been in Cleveland, Bickerstaff has played. Besides the time LeBron James was in Cleveland, this is the best Cleveland has looked since LeBron
Right.
James has left for the second time. So
Hmm.
you've put up the best record, the best season, the best squad since LeBron James has left, held by this coach, and then you get rid of him because I have no idea. Now, if the situation about the Donovan Mitchell situation, if that's the reason, I guess that has something to do with it, but that's assuming that you're going to wrap Mitchell up long term. I've heard rumors that the Rockets are trying to get him, and there's a really good chance they might. I'm not a Mitchell fan like that, but I'm just saying there's no guarantee that the player is even going to sign a long term max deal, even with the coach being gone. So I think the franchise is probably trying to do too much at one time, and it looks like they may end up on the short end of the stick, losing the coach and potentially the player as well, and be back to nobody's again.
Well, the Rockets can join the list of pretty much every other team, 29 other teams, maybe make it 25 because 4 teams are not trying to win right now, but and the Jazz won't be taking them back. But yeah, everybody in the league is going to want Donovan Mitchell because he's a great creator. But to your point, this is a team that fell apart. Mitchell wasn't available for the last 2 games of the series against Boston. Jared Allen didn't play the entirety of the series because of a rib injury. Karis LeVert was lost for the last 2 games of that series. Those three are top 5 guys.
Yeah.
What really more, like you said, can you do? Here's the thing. When you fire a head coach, you have to know what the next step is. And I'm not going to sit here and be able to list all the talented up and coming assistant coaches that are probably going to end up with the job because I think we get so infatuated with name brand coaches like the Lakers do, where it's like, if it's not Mike Budenholzer, if it's not Frank Vogel, if it's not somebody that everybody knows, we're not hiring him. I think that's idiotic. But and so I'm not going to. I wouldn't be able to even give you a good idea. I think Kenny Atkinson has been linked to him. He's a former head coach. I thought he's done an exceptional job on the Warriors bench. But unless you know, and you know that the guy you want wants to potentially come there as well, this is a massive swing. But if I'm JB Bickerstaff, I'm looking at this saying, what else could I have done with the
Yeah.
pieces? Because as much as we look at coaching and we say coaching matters, we can say, look at the head coaches currently still alive in the SWBA. Jason Kidd, phenomenal head coach. Micah Nori's the head coach currently, but it's Chris Finch for Minnesota, phenomenal head coach. Rick Carlisle and Joe Mazzulla is probably the worst of the four, and he's had a huge redemption season after last year. Who of those guys is actually influencing wins and losses on the level that a superstar is? And I don't think anybody here is going to be taking Donovan Mitchell over Anthony Edwards, Tyrese Halliburton, Jason Tatum, or Luka Doncic. Correct me if I'm wrong in that assertion.
No,
If
you're
your
not. I'm not
if your
as big on
stars aren't
Mitchell
your
as some people are.
stars, Exactly.
Yeah.
So if your stars aren't your stars, the coach is kind of like, man, I can't be Luka Doncic. What else do you want me to do here? So to me, that's why it's surprising. But I'm not surprised because at the same time, 5 years with a team, eventually it grows stale and they just need a new face. That is our SWBA portion. Let's head over to SW Prep, where last night the AT Aliens picked up the season sweep of the Yacht Club, Bevis Patches. Another big
Hmm.
night. I think that's two in a row for old Bevinson Patches of 20 plus games. Let me confirm it is. 21 last night, 20 the night before. Don't look now, but the old AT Aliens, winners of 5 of their last 6, they're getting hot, and they just took down a very good Yacht Club team just days after they took down a very good Southeast Select squad, Rick.
Yep. Hey, I said it in the threads, and so I'm going to reimagine again. First of all, shout out to the repo man, Bevis Patches. That's my guy. He's showing you not only that can he get it done on the offensive side of the ball, he can put points on the board. I mean, on the defensive side of the ball, he can also put points on the board on the offensive side as well. But do we now know the first round winner of the AT Aliens versus H-Town Hoopers? Follow me here. Yacht
Following.
Club, the couple nights ago, just beat H-Town by 10. Yacht Club comes into AT Aliens, they lose to the AT Aliens. AT Aliens are playing H-Town, first round matchup 4 versus 5. By definition of what we just saw, is that almost guaranteeing that the AT Aliens are going to win the first round matchup against H-Town? I don't know. But, if you like to put strings together and make a kite and fly the direction you want to fly it, that's kind of what it seems like. Anything can happen in SimWorld Prep, but I'm just saying it's an interesting dynamic of how we got games going. And maybe this means nothing at all, and I'm just rambling, but this is how I feel on a Friday morning, Freaky Friday.
Well, H-Town's got to win out. So H-Town's got 2 games left. AT Aliens and Lone Star are both locked in. Queen City Kings are 1 game behind H-Town. So as much as that could be our first round matchup, there's an opportunity in that 4-5 matchup for it to be AT Aliens versus Lone Star versus Queen City Kings. There's some fluctuation, but I'm following the pathway that you're walking along because AT Aliens has looked good. I think we found a much better version of Royce Anderson over the past 6 games. If you look at the number of shots that he's taken, his shot totals early in the season, this was a guy that was consistently taking 17, 16 or more shots. He has been below 15 and below for the past 5 games, 6 games. I think that's a positive for Royce Anderson. I think that this team has gotten more of these guys involved. And if they were to go up against an H-Town team, I think they have to feel pretty decent about their chances inside of saying, look, we could go toe-to-toe against Almighty Soul. If we can slow him down and just keep him to a decent night, we think we can run with anybody else. There's just this depth across the league in what we've always called the sim world, the prep middle class, where it's these teams are really good if they get the right matchups. And some of those matchups, the way Lone Star looked last night, I don't know that I'd want to play Lone Star if I'm being quite honest with you. They looked awesome in their win last night against Gulf Coast Lockdown, but AT Aliens are starting to look real fierce, and they're starting to look real fierce at the exact right time. All right, let's go to the SimWorld Prep wrap-up where we had a full night of action and day. We'll start with our day capper, where it was Bay Area getting a 2-point win over SimWorld Middle East thanks to a game winner from one Sean Hyman. A massive win to get Bay Area back above 500, 61-59.
Hey, Lakeshore, down against G5. Yo, they've been sliding, bro, and not in a good way. Down by 10.
AT Aliens, we talked about it. 73-69 win, 21 from Patches, 15 from Royce Anderson. They're back above 500.
Hey, back above 500. They're trying to keep it going. AT Aliens, again, as you see, with the win, those boys mean business. Lone Star, we was talking about a Lone Star looking good against a very tough Gulf Coast Lockdown, 73-60. This team has a winning record when King Arthur's not their leading scorer. They're spreading the mustard, and they're looking dangerous. 4 guys scoring in double digits. Lone Star may have found something now.
Asia Pacific goes into the Riot House and silences the Zombie Stars. Just 11 points on 5 of 20 shooting from Benari James. Leonardo Fields 19 and 12, and Victor Soto with 17 and a doozy of a 71-49 win last night for Asia Pacific.
Hey, and the dream does not really continue at Showtime as they lose to South America 71-57. The Showtime team has been more no time than they have been Showtime this season for sure. It is what it is. South America 71-57 all over Showtime on the road.
That's a great one. No time. Love that one. Look, SimWorld Prep's not going to be active this weekend, but don't worry because there's some activity coming up. Big night next week. We've got a Tuesday triple header. We've got a Wednesday doubleheader, and we got a Thursday doubleheader, all to wrap up the SimWorld Prep regular season. As you can see right over there, covering up Rick's beautiful face. All of the games
crazy.
next Tuesday.
That's crazy work.
And then the race or the run to one coming up in early June. So it's getting intense here on SimWorld TV. Thank you, Rick, for coming back in. Glad we got the lights back on over there. Thank you all for joining us. We'll be back, as we said, on Monday. Plenty of action still to come. Appreciate you joining us here on SimWorld TV, the only place you can see the game and be the game.
Happy Friday, nerds.
This has been a presentation of SimWorld Sports.